Well, welcome to the round one edition of In the Pocket, all thanks to Palmerbet and the great man. He is an absolute legend. He's an icon of the sport too, and he's still a media celebrity. Make no mistake about it, especially up on the Gold Coast. Peter Spida Everett. Spide, how are you, big fella?
I cannot wait. I think everybody, this has probably been just the lead in the lack of preseason games. Everybody's loving it. You don't know. Like, you look at this round of footy and you're sitting there going, gee, it can go so many ways, which is what the AFL want. Every game is nearly a cracker. And, they worked this out months ago and it's just worked out for them. So, look, I'm so excited, like every other footy fan. We've seen the other code kick off for the last couple of weeks. We've been waiting for our code just to kick off. And finally, the code that I love and we love best is back. So we're super excited. It's going to be huge.
No, it is going to be massive, mate. It's interesting because the first 2 weeks of the NRL, we don't like mentioning that word here. It's all AFL talk. But
no, absolutely.
The first couple of weeks, they've thrown up some really interesting results. So it's been pretty skew-if all over the shop. So will round one of the AFL be the same? I must admit, Spide, looking at those round one clashes, gee whiz, I reckon they're a toss of the coin in a lot of those games.
Oh, there's going to be some crackers. And, I'll do a bit of a multi later on and I'll pick who we think we're going to win. But I reckon out of whole 9 games, I reckon there's 2 that I know there's a whole heap, but there's 7 games that I'm pretty happy with. But 2 of them, you just sit there and go, I don't know. Yeah. I just don't know.
Toss of the coin. And it's a
absolutely
start too, isn't it? Thursday night footy. The traditional rivals, of course, Richmond and Carlton. They do battle at the G. The Blues got the job done last year, of course. And then Geelong and Collingwood. Well, it was an epic prelim final game last year. It's just got so much this round one.
Absolutely. And all the new coaches, all the trades. I've been looking at, we'll mention a few of them, but I don't reckon I've seen so many gun midfields.
Yeah, you're right.
So many gun midfields. You go through every team and you sit there and go, okay, they've really got to win it out of the middle to give their forwards a bit of a chance or, to slow down their defence. And you sit there and go, gee, there's some gun midfields. And not even the top 4 or 5 teams. Like, you're seeing probably some of the bottom teams have got gun midfields and you sit there and go, you know what? They're capable of winning big games.
Yeah, and the young players coming through those midfields, I think it's really exciting. Righto, Spide, enough of the talk, mate. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty. It all kicks off Thursday night, of course, at the MCG. It is going to be a full house. They're expecting a record crowd numbers too this weekend. The AFL, I think it's 395,000 across all the games. That's the record, and they're expecting it to be broken.
Well, if they had a stadium like the cricket one in India, they'd get that after the first 2 games, wouldn't they?
Isn't it crazy over there, mate?
It's unbelievable.
They're on top of each other. It's awesome. So 7:20 MCG Thursday night footy, head to head, all thanks to Palmerbet. The Tigers $1.65, Carlton $2.12 at the line. Richmond -5.5 at $1.90, Carlton +5.5 at $1.90. Last year, epic encounter. The Tigers were getting the job done early, and the Blues just overrun us late. I must admit, Spide, I reckon it's a bit skew-iffy, the market for mine. I would have had the Blues a lot tighter.
Oh yeah. I kind of see that as well, but Richmond, they've got a lot of dominance now. They've just added a little bit to their midfield. My big question is how their forwards are going to go. Rewalt another year, Tommy Lynch another year. A couple of them are getting older. How's Dusty going to shape up? We know that he missed a lot of games. So look, it's going to be really interesting for the Tigers, but they have brought a bit of enthusiasm into their team. So you love that. And at the other side, you look at Michael Voss. He's really set Carlton up. They've got a team out there. They're 2 big Twin Peaks there in the 4 line. Can they get the job done? Kerno, you kind of sit there and go, okay, this is the one of the ones where you sit there and go, flip a coin, which way we're going to go. Yeah. I know you're going the Tigers.
I'll be going the Tigers, big fella.
I'm going out there, so I'm going to be so excited. It's going to be huge. So I reckon Carlton. Carlton can get the job. Well, they need to get the job done. They need early money in the bank. So for me, Carlton need to win early.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, of course. Tarano Hopper coming to that midfield for the Tigers. Cochin's obviously going to play a different role. No Sam Walsh for the Blues. I reckon that's the big one, just that little bit of midfield grunt. It's going to be a ripping game, and I reckon you're right, Spy. It's a toss of the coin. I'm not overly confident on the Tigers, to be honest. Their pre-season form, it's hard to weigh up. It's hard to match up to see where they're at. So it's a sit back and watch, grab a little hamburger and maybe some nachos or something, mate, and just enjoy the footy.
Oh, absolutely. But still, you're able to see some superstars in action. Like Shea Bolton, we cannot wait to see go around.
He's going to be better, Spide, having that bit of extra midfield help, I think, isn't he? Prestia, they're saying he's going to be fit to play. So I reckon Bolton then might be able to get off the lead a little bit more. He was kind of the focal or the main midfielder last year at certain points, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll see Dusty one out in the square at certain times too. So it's going to throw up a lot of options this year. So, look, for me, I'm sticking with Carlton, first game of the season.
Righto, let's turn our attention to Friday night footy. It's at the MCG, back-to-back at the G. It's going to be huge.
Unbelievable. Melbourne
Town is going to be buzzing. Geelong v Collingwood, 7:40 kickoff. The odds, all thanks to Palmerbet. Head-to-head, the Cats. Last year's premiers, of course, $1.49. The Pies at $2.65. They had a magnificent season, of course. At the line, Geelong minus 12.5, $1.90. The Pies plus 12.5, $1.90. Paddy Dangerfield comes in and makes his debut as skipper. Tom Stewart, vice-captain for the Cats. For the Pies, they've added some recruits in that off-season.
Unbelievable.
Exciting.
I just cannot believe, these two teams can pick up the recruits they get. You look at, the bottom 8 teams and they can't get players like they've been able to pick up. But, for me, if I was at the G on Thursday night, hide in a toilet block, hide in a bin, do whatever, so you get into the game on Friday night because it would be an absolute cracker 2 nights in a row. Absolutely. But, again, as you say, you look at that Geelong side on paper and, you could pencil that in for that last weekend in September and say, you know what, they'll be absolutely competitive because there's not a lot that's changed and they don't need Tomahawk, big question mark if he'll play. I'll be surprised if he does. Round 1, why are you going to risk him?
I agree, mate.
But for Collingwood, when you bring in Tommy Mitchell straight into the midfield, great to see DeGoey now fit enough and be able to rotate there throughout the whole year. McStay, they bring him into centre half forward. And don't forget, they picked up Taylor Adams only last year, the year before, for hardly anything as well. They've got an absolute gun team. I actually like Collingwood. I reckon, and Geelong, realistically, they didn't finish that long ago. They've had a couple of surgeries. They've had a lot on their plate. I personally think if Collingwood's going to knock them off, this is going to be the opportunity. And I know Collingwood will be up and running early. Good
point, Spy. A lot to be said for that later finish, isn't it, for grand final teams? It's 2, sometimes 3 weeks compared to some of the other teams. So a lot can be said for that.
And not only that, it's they might have only finished a week after Collingwood, but don't forget their celebrations would have finished another 3 weeks after that.
That's right. Yeah.
So you've got to consider
if you're involved, mate. I reckon should be still rocking.
I'll be still celebrating.
So you're going with the Pies? You're going with the Pies here, mate?
I'm going with the Pies on Friday.
Right, love it. Absolutely love it. I'm with you. I like the Collingwood Football Club too against Geelong. I reckon you're spot on. 265. That is juicy odds.
Absolutely.
Saturday afternoon at Marvel Stadium, undergoing a redevelopment to Marvel Stadium at the moment. North Melbourne v West Coast. Alistair Clarkson makes his coaching debut at the North Melbourne Football Club. Been so much spoken about. West Coast coming off an abysmal 2022 Spider. The odds, all thanks to Palmerbet. The Kangas $1.83. West Coast $2.01 at the line. North Melbourne minus 2.5, $1.90. West Coast plus 2.5, $1.90. Unbelievable to think Kangaroos are going into this favourite.
How can they be favourite? What's Palmerbet thinking? They're backing. They obviously must. They're putting everything in Alistair Clarkson. You've got to have the cattle still. You got to think when Alistair Clarkson. Oh, yeah, but you got to think of when Alistair Clarkson walked into Hawthorn, he walked into probably about half a dozen top 10 picks and so on. So, look, Alistair Clarkson hasn't got the quality of player that Hawthorn had when he first started. I still think Clarko is going to be able to turn it around, but I don't think it's going to be this year. I don't think it's going to be in round 1. I had a look at the paper. I thought really early in the week, I was with you guys. I was with Palmerbet. I was with the emotion. I said, yep, Clarko will get the job done. And then I looked on paper and I looked at the West Coast team. And when you've got Nick Nat's not playing, but you've still got Yo, Kelly, Gaff, Shields, Shuey, Sheeds, they've still got such a good lineup. Hearn, so McGovern. So for me,
they come under a fair bit of scrutiny too, West Coast. A lot of people saying they weren't fit enough last year. So I reckon if that was you as a team, Spider, you'd be actually really gritting your teeth and you'd be having a pretty solid preseason. So I reckon they're going to come out of the block solid.
And they're a pride team too. There's only 2 teams in West Coast, and the number 1 team, Fremantle had a good team year last year. Yep. West Coast don't want to see that. They want to be the number 1 team in WA. Absolutely they do. And for that, they would have been fitter. They'll be better. For me, Eagles every day of the week.
Right, so there's another little roughie. You've gone the 3 roughies so far, Spide. So
yeah, but the Eagles might pop up a little later on with one of my multis because I reckon they're absolute shoeies.
Right, I love it. Shoeies, I like it.
Yeah, you like that?
Hey, let's move it along to another interesting game because this is the Port Adelaide Football Club coming off a really disappointing, especially their start to the season last year. They were ordinary. They lost their first 4. They're coming up against the Brisbane Lions side who have been red hot the last couple of seasons and they've recruited really well. Saturday, 4:35 at the Adelaide Oval. Conditions look magnificent. It's going to be warm. Head-to-head, all thanks to Palmerbet. The Power at $2.08. Brisbane $1.78 at the line. The Power plus 2.5 $1.90. Brisbane minus 2.5 $1.90. Another toss of the coin game for me, Spot. Yeah. What are your thoughts? Kenny Hinkley, surely he's going to have the boys wound up because a loss here early is just going to put a little bit more pressure on Kenny, isn't it?
And just for all the punters out there, just remember, and I think you just mentioned the weather's going to be perfect in Adelaide. It's going to be perfect in Melbourne. It's perfect on the Gold Coast. I haven't checked Sydney. So around the country, round 1 in the AFL, the weather gods are with us. It's going to be a cracker wherever you go. So for me, look, Port Adelaide again, you say Ken Hinkley, they've got hardly any injuries. So they're going to have their top team out there. Charlie Dixon's still their barometer. And you look at, they're exciting. The young players are going to be up and about. I know they got they got Rioli and Horn Francis. But look, I was really impressed with Brisbane the other week. When I watched them against Geelong, and Geelong were really undermanned, they got a good team. I thought they finally have that balance they really needed. They got some solid backs. They got some real key forwards, and their midfield's got a fair bit of grunt. So I actually really like Brisbane. I was off them a couple of weeks ago. But I'm starting to really, really enjoy their footy again. And we know they've got to actually activate in September, but they've got to get to September. And I reckon, absolutely. Again, I'm going with Brisbane.
Yeah, I'm going to go the Power in a little bit of an upset there. I just reckon at home. I reckon Kenny's going to have them absolutely steeled up and ready to fire. So it's going to be a cracker. Next game, Saturday night, the MCG, Melbourne taking on the Western Bulldogs. Hasn't the G got some cracking games? Really interesting contest, this one too. Head-to-head, the Demons $1.53, Western Bulldogs $2.52. At the line, Melbourne minus 10.5 $1.90. The Bulldogs plus 10.5 $1.90. Brody Grundy, of course, making his debut. The big boys.
How can a side lose with 2 gun ruckmen?
I know, mate. Imagine if you had a gun ruckman like Maxie Gawn running around with you back in your heyday.
Imagine if a side had 18 ruckmen.
I thought you were 18 Spider Everett said. I was like,
I'm not.
Imagine the haircuts,
That's how we could tell them apart, all the different haircuts.
Well, what do you think? You think of the Demons here? Do you reckon the Bulldogs
absolutely
a little bit? Yeah.
Absolutely. I think the Demons, they understand what they did wrong last year. I think, the Grundy and Gawn exercise is going to be fantastic. I don't know why the ruckmans don't go more forward and be that tall option and kick goals. We know it's worked at Collingwood, even though, we know their second ruckman doesn't go in the ruck that often. But, Cox down forward. So I reckon this is going to be great for them. We know their midfielder. They're saying Oliver's fitter than ever. And we know what Petrarca's capable of. And they've still got solid backmen as well. So for me, Melbourne, absolutely. The only thing with the Bulldogs I find really hard, and they've brought some talent in, but they're a very versatile team. Like, they got Josh Bruce probably playing down back rather than forward, which can be awesome where you got players can play forward and back. But you know what? Every team needs their key 6 backmen.
Yeah.
Every team needs a solid, we know how we operate. This is how we're working. this is our key. You might have 6 or 7, but they don't move a lot of, the backmen don't, really move around. So versatile sometimes can go the other way and hurt you because you're not playing all the players where they should be playing. So for me, I reckon.
You reckon I was going to say, they're going to play the Four Towers, mate. So Ugle-Hagan, Darcy, Rory Lobb, and, of course, Aaron Norton. Do you reckon they'll play them all?
I don't reckon they'll play, not all at the same time. I think I don't think they'll play Darcy. They'll play Darcy in the ruck. They might put him forward every now and then, but, and give Lobb a bit of a break, but Lobb can go in the ruck. But for me, they have got, at the moment, they've got no clear defining structure on how they want to play. And sometimes, as good as it sounds and being unpredictable as it sounds, it can come back to haunches. So, look, I love Rory Lobb. I reckon he's going to be a great asset. But for me, I reckon Melbourne will win this.
Rocking the same haircut as you at the moment too, Rory Lobb, mate. So
absolutely. Our ruckman, we all stick the same.
Hey, you're with the Demons, mate. Right, Gold Coast v Sydney. Okay, you're virtually the number one ticket holder for the Gold Coast Suns, mate. You're the main man up there. You're doing all the media stuff. It's wonderful to see, and I love the fact that they're getting you involved. It's awesome. Heritage Bank Stadium Saturday night. I love the Gold Coast Suns, what they did last year, especially early on in the season. Head-to-head, all thanks to Palmerbet. They're at $2.46. The Swannies at $1.55. Gold Coast plus 9.5 $1.90. Sydney minus 9.5 $1.90. Are you going with the heart here, big fella? Are you going with
Well, you tell me at the end of my little spiel here. No, look, I think it's going to be a really interesting one. The Suns beat Sydney in Sydney last year, so that gives them a lot of confidence. Yeah, it's a different year. The Suns have, they've got. They got big Benny King back. So even though he's a little bit underdone, but he's a massive in. So suddenly now they've got 3 talls, and Chol can go back if he needs to help out the others. But what I like about this for the Gold Coast Suns is they've been emphasising a couple of things throughout the year. One is they've got to start well. So they need to start well, and normally the first quarter is where they lose it. So if they start well, I reckon they can match it with the Swans. To start well, though, without Tom Hickey in the Swans team, and you've got Jared Witts, who's going to give the Suns have got a pretty good midfield, first use of the ball. Suddenly then you've got a little bit of an advantage, even though Sydney know how to close down. I'll be doubting if Buddy plays. I don't know if he'll make the flight up here. Look, I know you've got to go with your heart and you've got to go with whatever it says, but I still reckon the Suns are a pretty good bet.
I'm actually with you, mate. And just listening to you sell me the case, I'm actually on board with you. No, it's some good points there. Absolutely great points. And you're right. I like what the Suns are doing. And I really reckon King's a massive inclusion. He's just such a strong overhead player that if he doesn't mark it, the ball's going to hit the deck. They've got some good crumbing forwards there that can
absolutely
some good crumbing midfielders. So no, I think structurally they're gonna actually structure up all right, and I think I'm with you, big fella.
Yep, well, it's going to be perfect conditions as well. So, what is it? Heritage Bank Stadium now.
Are you going along, mate? Are you just you're in a corporate box or something? Are you just
no? I might be. I'll be hanging down in Melbourne. I'm going to go to the Saints. So I go Thursday night, Carlton, Richmond, and then St Kilda on the Sunday.
Righto, mate. You're a freak. Absolutely love it, big fella. Right, GWS taking on Adelaide. This is at Giants Stadium. Interesting game, this one. The Palmerbet head-to-head odds have the Giants at $1.68, the Crows at $2.20. At the line, the Giants minus 7.5, $1.90. Adelaide plus 7.5, $1.90. Even enough affair. Hard to kind of line both these teams up, Spide. Yeah. We need to see them for 3 or 4 weeks, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We need to see them for at least 1 week to see what they're going to give out. For me, Adelaide's got a really top line older demo and some really good young kids. It's that middle that you really get concerned about. In GWS, I love Toby Green being the standout captain. If they all take a leaf out of his book, play with his passion, and he leads them like he should as a leader, and I think he's been able to mature over the years, they'll have a great year. And a lot of people aren't expecting him to do that well. So for me, I reckon they've got a really solid back 6. And then you got Himmelberg, which will go up forward, which will be fantastic for him, really help him out. So with Hogan, for me, I'm going to stick with GWS. I reckon GWS is a really good bet. I did like Adelaide. There's a lot of hype around Adelaide.
There's a heat, isn't there?
Yeah, there is for some reason. We don't know why. It might be just coming out of Adelaide. But for me, I'm going to stick with GWS, especially at home. So, yeah, stay with GWS.
Toss the coin game for me. It's it could go either way. Would not surprise me. Hawthorn v Essendon Sunday MCG 3:20 p.m. Another ripper at the MCG. Spide. They have got 4 wonderful games of football this weekend. Head to head, all thanks to Palmerbet. The Hawks at $2.42. Essendon at $1.57. Hawthorn at the line plus $9.5, $1.90. Essendon minus $9.5, $1.90. New coach, of course, at the Bombers in Brad Scott makes his debut there. He done a wonderful job at North Melbourne, I reckon, over the journey.
Yeah.
The Hawthorn Football Club sent Mitchell into his second year. They've moved a bit of personnel around. They've got some personnel in. Young list coming through. How do you see this one, Spide?
Well, one thing, look, they'll have their moments, Hawthorn. I don't think they'll get blown away. They haven't really ever since Alex Clarkson come in. So, even last year, they got blown away once or twice, but not often. I still think the margin here is probably a little bit too big. I think Hawthorn should be a little bit closer because they're going to be competitive, but I still believe Bombers will get the job done. I reckon their whole game style, their whole game plan. Remember, it was probably about round 8, round 9. A lot of their leads, especially Dylan Shields, got pointed out and said, you know what? You're just not working hard enough for an AFL player. And with Brad Scott there now, and they've still got a good enough team. Unfortunately, I think one of the favourite players, Stringer's out. So you kind of sit there and go, it would have been great to have him in. But again, Bombers get the job done here. Hawthorn's got a lot to learn, but they won't get blown away.
What happens if the Bombers don't win, Spide?
I think at 3/4 time, they need to do the line in the sand game. They need to bring back the biggest fight of all time and draw a line and get it going again. Fire them up, send Dermy down to the change rooms in the Bombers or Vanderhart.
Hey, right, final game. St Kilda taking on Fremantle Sunday, 4:40 at Marvel Stadium. Bit in this game too. Head-to-head, all thanks to Palmerbet, mate. The Saints, $2.44. Dockers, $1.56 at the line. The Saints, plus $9.5, $1.90. The Dockers, minus $9.5 at $1.90. Ross Lyon back at the St Kilda Football Club. I don't think anyone saw this coming at the end of last season, but he's back at the helm. Fremantle Dockers coming off a wonderful season last year. Longmuir will have the boys absolutely cherry ripe. Big game for your St Kilda Football Club.
Yeah.
Oh, this is, I know it's only early, but it just gets your season off to a flyer and it gets a bit of momentum happening, doesn't it, this first win?
Whoever thought round 1 would be their grand final day?
It virtually is, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and look, Ross Lyon's got a lot of injuries to face too, and this is hard. When you're facing round 1, you want to have your best team out there or closest to it. You can take 1 or 2, but not 3 or 4 or 5 injuries. But St Kilda really, and look, Fremantle did have a cracking year last year. I love watching him play. I thought they were fantastic. Went and saw him a few times, and they were a little bit stiff in the end, and they ran out of legs come finals time. But they've lost a fair bit of quality out of that side too. They've lost a little bit of quality that did them so well. Fife getting a little bit older, he still needs other players to run with him. I don't know. Another flip of a coin. I'm only going St Kilda because it's at home and I'm a Saints man. But look, I'm not convinced. But at the same time, that's more of my heart. I think Fremantle they've learnt to travel, but like anything, I think we've got to watch round 1. So for me, I'm sticking with the Saints.
Yeah, you're going with the heart, mate. It's they're juicy.
You don't like it?
They're juicy odds, to be honest. Like Fremantle generally coming across here, will always most of the time start underdogs, So, they
can run for you, though. They can run.
I love the style of footy they play, to be honest, the Dockers. It's a good brand. I reckon Marvel Stadium will suit them. Just that flowing run through the middle. So it's just going to be where they get their goals from. Well, they play Jackson forward a fair bit. And it's always been the issue. I think Fife will definitely play forward. Majority of the year, Spide. So he's going to have to probably have a 50-goal season for the Dockers to really feature long in September. Righto, big fella. That's the round 1 action. Okay, that is the games. We've dissected them now. I want your best bet, big fella. What do you got for us, mate? What's your moral for the weekend?
Yeah, my multi for the weekend. My 3-leg multi.
Go for it, mate. I'm going to just key this to the Palmerbet app, okay, as we're actually talking.
Right, you put that. I'm going to go Eagles at, pick your own line, at minus 16.5.
And isn't that a good thing? You can pick your own line with the boys at Palmer.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I wasn't quite sure if it was 1-39 because the Eagles get on a roll. They could win by 40 plus.
Yes.
So it's really difficult sometimes when you're picking those. So for me, minus 16.5 will give you $3.10. I still reckon Brisbane will win. Brisbane will get over the line between 1 and 39 points. What I saw a couple of weeks ago, I was really impressed. I don't reckon they'll lose round one. And my third leg is the Giants minus 20-1. Pick your own line again because they could win by 60. They could win by 30. I don't know. So minus 21.5 will give you $2.60. And that's me. That's my 3-leg multi for the weekend.
I love it, mate. $19.34.
Absolutely.
I'm a bit app Spide. So that is juicy, mate. That is absolutely phenomenal, mate.
And the other one I'm going to take, I want to try and pick all 9, but if I was to, pick all the winners head to head, I'd stick with them all except for the first 2. Carlton, Richmond, Collingwood, Geelong. I don't know.
Well, that's what we're putting the acid on you this year, big fella. The Palmer Bet boys. We want to screw Spider down, so I want you to pick the round, mate. So you got to give it to me. So
I'm taking Carlton, Collingwood, the Eagles, Brisbane, Melbourne, the Suns, Giants, Bombers, and the Saints.
Gee whiz, big fella. That is unbelievable. Now, can I just say, Spide? That odds, what do we got? I'm actually just trying to $507.
Yeah.
Spider.
That's what I mean.
If you pick the round, that is phenomenal.
So I'll be taking that, and
$5 on it, mate. That's just $5.
I know that Palmer better putting the screws in, and that's my go-to. That's my number one. But I will be just venturing out and maybe doing it with Richmond and maybe doing it with Geelong. But the bottom 7, stay strong. That
is phenomenal, mate. That is a great start. If you get that, mate, they'll virtually put a statue at the front of Gold Coast Stadium, I reckon.
Hey, I'll only be coming on to brag next week and then I'll retire.
And why wouldn't you, big fella? Hey, look, it's going to be a wonderful round of footy, mate, to be honest. I'm really looking forward to it. I reckon the AFL have done it smart, Spide. I reckon they've kept the footy away from the fans a little bit. The preseason comp hasn't gone as long. They didn't have the NAB Cup, all that kind of stuff. And I reckon everybody's hungry. And I reckon that's why the Thursday night's a sellout already. I think Friday night's close to a sellout. Yeah. I think people are hungry for footy, aren't they?
Oh, I cannot wait until just walking into the MCG on Thursday night. The hype around Melbourne, even Thursday, Friday, with the winning team of Carlton and Richmond, and then the fans of Collingwood and Geelong getting set up for the MCG. I think if you're around Melbourne on Friday lunchtime, everybody will be in the bars talking about the club they love. It's an absolute prime weekend for the AFL. The weather gods are with us. You cannot do. You know what? We love it. This is what we've been waiting for 6 months. Ever since Geelong raised that cup back in that last weekend in September, we've been waiting for this day, and we're really excited. I think, as you said, the AFL's done it absolutely magnificently.
It's going to be sensational, that is for sure, mate. Download the Palmer Bet app, get involved, do it in a responsible manner. I'm just going to say the question is remember, what are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, you can call the Gamblers Hotline, 1-800-858-858, or visit gamblinghelponline.org.au. Okay, it's as simple as that. Do it in a responsible manner. And Spide, I'm looking forward to this weekend's footy, mate. I'm looking forward to chatting to you next week, big fella.
Oh, I tell you what, I'm going to come up behind you on Thursday. Just rub that head when the Blues get up.
See you next week, big fella.
Yeah.
What are you really gambling with?